Alright, hello again. What I got going on here is another program for Arduino, and I'm also going to be explaining it a little bit better exactly how the code is put together, what its different components are. In my last video there was a pretty critical mistake when I described exactly what makes up the code. What I've got going on over here right now, pretty simple, if I can get the camera to focus in on it. And move this other one out of the way. All this really is it's a Morse code transmitter, basically. It will receive a signal from the computer. You'll type in whatever phrase or word you want, and it will begin to blink the little red LED in Morse code to what you've typed. Now, before we get into the actual source code, which hopefully got a better camera going on here, we can actually get there we go, and start to focus on where you can actually see what's going on here, unlike the last video. But I have typed up here already what I kind of need to go over for the code. Right. There are three main segments to an Arduino program. One is the initial declaration of your variables. What's going to equal what? Then there's the initial code to run. That's basically the code that's ran once to set up the program loop, which is what the Arduino will do repeatedly that enables you to keep performing actions without rebooting the microcontroller. Now we'll come back over here to the code. Come on, focus. There we go. As you can see at the very top, we've declared LED pin to be pin 13. We have the array that is going to be for the letters in Morse code. Now, biggest pain in the rear in writing this program was just typing out all the different dots and dashes for the different letters and the numbers, which are also declared here in the variables. And then the dot delay, which is, of course, how long it waits between dots. And now we void the setup. Right. This section right here is the code that is ran once to set up the rest of the program. We have here is you have the pin mode, LED pin, output. What that's telling it is it's going back to the variable you declared earlier. You can see here LED pin, and it's setting it to output. Basically means it's going to be sending a signal out towards the LED. And then we have serial begin. What we're setting here is the baud rate at which we're going to be receiving a serial signal so that it can know what you want it to send in Morse code. And the baud rate is set to 9600 baud, or 9.6K. Now the loop. Now I actually pulled this program from a book because I'm still learning how to program these things myself, and I'm still working on understanding it. Basically, this is where you're telling it how to respond to the inputs that you can understand in English and what they're going to mean, what library they need to pull up from. For example, if greater than or equal to A and, which means and inclusive, Z, then flash sequence letters, else if, and so on and so forth for the capital letters. I realize I'm not explaining this very well, but that's because I'm still working on understanding it myself, and I figure if anyone else wants to learn with me, where's the harm in that? Scroll down through. One of the bits of code that if somebody else here knows more about Arduino than I do, which is a significant chance because I'm pretty new to this. This bit right here, write sequence, null. Not entirely certain what this does or what it's for, as I said. If I had to guess, I would say this is just for when it stops. This way it doesn't keep looping your whatever you've typed in. And down here, back to more familiar sections of code, which you'll recognize digital write from the last video. Setting it to high means digital write is on. You're actually sending a voltage there. And then down towards the bottom, we switch back to digital write low, turning it back off so it can blink. And also, as you'll notice, scrolling up and down through the code, very into the array for the letters, each different line is specific. There's page breaks deliberately inserted, and there's comment statements, which are in the Arduino IDE are labeled with the 2 forward slashes. This line is Morse code for A through I in order: A, B, C, D, etc., J through R, and S through Z. The numbers aren't labeled because this is just 0 through 9. Numbers, just count them across. Pretty easy. You could do the same thing up there, but whereas there's 26 of these and only 10 of these, so it's easier to track these with comment statements. And then, oh yeah, the if serial available. Basically what that means is it's going to be checking to see if anything's plugged into the USB port. Is there anything to read from USB, as stated in the comment statement. Then serial read. This is where you're setting it, so we mentioned, went over this, setting it to understand what your inputs are. Read single letters. Now I'll come over to my center screen here. And this is just a hyperterminal. We got the program selected in Windows, not running Linux this time. Then we got my keyboard down here that I'm going to be typing on. And as I'm doing that, focus the camera again, sorry. A, S, D, F. Now, this is with just a Q serial terminal, which you can download from SourceForge. I'll be putting the link in the video's description. You can also use the serial monitor function in the Arduino IDE, as seen here. So, and since only one of them can use the COM port at a time, running this through COM5 on the computer, by the way, if you want to try to set something like this up on, for yourself, you'll have to find out which COM port is using, which you'll most likely have to go into Device Manager, make sure the driver is installed for whichever Arduino board you're using. Now, unlike using the hyperterminal, where you couldn't really see what you were typing as you were typing it, it just sent it straight to the board, the serial monitor function is different. You actually type it up, and again, the lens I'm using right now is not very good for getting really close to the screen. There, type in "how are you?" We'll click send, and then we'll move over, and as you can see, it started sending the message. And it's done. Then we'll come back. That's essentially all I have for you for this little program. I hope, even, I must apologize for the fact that I can't explain everything in the code because I'm still learning this stuff myself, basically. But I hope this does help anyone out who's trying to, or looking into getting into Arduino and or programming your own microcontrollers. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. There's a small investment to be made. The individual Arduino boards cost somewhere around $30, and then you've got to buy LEDs and resistors, and a breadboard comes in handy. Even though, as you can see from the project here, you don't always need to use a breadboard. because sometimes you can just put the LED directly into the Arduino as seen here. Anyhow, that's going to do it for this video. I hope it's been educational. Hope you've enjoyed your time here. Later. More projects to come.